And we're going to kick things off here with John from Douglastown, New Brunswick. On his podcast, Arn Anderson recently talked about Bray Wyatt and why he was never seen as a top guy while he was there. I guess Arn says while he was there in WWE. Saying that they beat him too often for him to be special. I've heard you talk about this before. Did you hear what he said, and do you agree? Absolutely. Of course I agree. I said this many times on the podcast back then. I wanted to go pull the quote from Arn so I could just read it to all of you. This is specifically what Arn Anderson said on his podcast. He said, this is in regards to Bray Wyatt. He was scarier to me in just the Bray Wyatt role than he is in the monster role. I know what he can give you as a character. The promos he did as the Bray Wyatt character to me was something we missed the boat on. You should not have beaten him 10 pay-per-views in a row. There's a thought. No matter how good you are, you as fans realize after 3 or 4 pay-per-views in a row, the guy's not a top guy. I thought he was, but apparently nobody else does, so I'm going to move on. That's kind of the mentality, and it's a normal reaction. If the company doesn't think you're a big deal, why should they? They being the fans. You know, there's a reason why I used to call him the eater of pins. And I would give example after example after example of these feuds that Bray Wyatt was in where he would cut these really good promos on John Cena or The Undertaker or Randy Orton, whoever it may be, right? And there were these really kind of spooky promos and how, you know, I'm going to end you or whatever the exact dialogue was. And I had one of the listeners of my show once, because I said, I wish somebody would splice all this together. And you guys are great, because I'll say that, and then within a few hours, somebody's gone ahead and done it. And he put a video together with clips from those Wyatt promos, immediately followed by clips of him being pinned. And there was that one year in the Royal Rumble, he was doing promos about how he's going to win the Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania. And then the next scene in the video, you see him just being very casually dumped out over the top rope. What happens is when you cut these types of promos and you never deliver, people just, you know, they don't take you seriously anymore. You turn into a joke. It's empty words. It's empty verbiage. It doesn't mean anything anymore. It's exactly what Arn Anderson is talking about. And Arn Anderson may well have been the agent for some of his matches. Arn Anderson was there. He was in the trenches. He was in the back. He was working for the company. He was watching this unfold in real time. So you're hearing somebody from within saying the exact same things that I was saying on the podcast at that time. I say the things that people in that company don't have the comfort and safety of saying because they're there. I'm not. So I can talk about these things and other people can talk about these things. And then eventually the truth comes out and the people who work there end up saying the exact same thing. Why would they beat this guy 10 pay-per-views in a row? Makes no sense. Look at a guy like Ryback. Now Ryback has said a lot of dumb shit. But at one time, Ryback was over. He was legitimately over. I can remember a time where Ryback gave CM Punk a clothesline on TV. It actually might have been the end of the CM Punk Vince McMahon match when they had that match on Raw that one time. I think Ryback came out. I don't know where you would, maybe there's a clip on YouTube of it. You can't bring it up on the network, I don't think, right now. But go back if you can and find that and watch when Ryback clotheslines, you know, the meat hook clothesline to CM Punk. The camera, the hard camera in the building is shaking. That's how loud the people are. And Ryback up to that point was still undefeated. I think this was right before he suffered that first loss to Punk in the Hell in a Cell match when John Cena was out with the elbow injury. But Ryback, who was unbeaten and he was over, he lost. And then what happened after that is he lost again, and he lost again, and he went on this streak where I don't think he could buy a win on pay-per-view. He lost something like 5 or 6 pay-per-views in a row. And then came WrestleMania, and then they turned him heel the next night. They put him in a program for the championship with John Cena. But that was the end of Ryback. Ryback was never the same again, and maybe he would have burned out anyway. But that's another example of you have something that's working, well, let's just take the guy and beat him in 6 straight pay-per-view matches. What do you think is going to happen when you do something like that? That's why I believe that there's just certain people in this company who don't want to see some of these guys get over. Maybe Ryback had enemies in the company. People didn't like him. They didn't think he would last. That's the only thing I can think of here, because this is just common sense. But we've seen this happen time and time and time again, and Bray Wyatt is another great example of it. And here's Arn Anderson just articulating exactly what I was saying for years. The eater of pins. It became a running joke. It took Bray Wyatt to reinvent himself and put a fucking mask on his face to try to get away from that and make people forget about it.